Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about FNAF merchandise. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's spans 12 games alongside dozens of spin-off games. And over the course of almost 12 years now, there's bound to be a lot of merchandise related to the franchise. So we're going to go over the evolution of the FNAF franchise merchandise. So let's begin. The first ever piece of FNAF merchandise was released all the way back in November of 2014 under Sanchi. It wasn't any of their plushies, but rather it was a Christmas-themed piece of artwork which depicted the night guard in his office alongside the other animatronics getting festive for the holidays. Foxy bringing out the cookies, and Freddy covered in tinsel, and the office itself being decorated to a holiday Christmas theming. Now, the first true piece of iconic FNAF merchandise that everybody knows will come later on in mid-2015 with Sanchi, of course. Sanchi being the original creators of the FNAF plushies. These were far higher quality, but were extremely costly. Now, this first came out in mid-2015 with Foxy. The rest of the FNAF cast did not come out until early 2016. And shortly afterwards, Funko became the creator of the FNAF merchandise, getting a hold of the master license, and it would remain this way for many years, replacing a very expensive Sanchi merch with much more affordable plushies of their own, which came out in May of 2016 with the original lineup. It included two exclusive characters, being Golden Freddy exclusive to Walmart, and Shadow Freddy exclusive to Hot Topic. Now their Funko Now later on in 2016, in August, McFarlane Toys came out with their construction sets, the Backstage, the Office, Pirates Cove, and the Show Stage, in August of 2016. Later on in October 2016, the first FNAF Funko Pops were released onto the market, and of course many more would follow. Now Funko would mean, like I said, would be holding the master license for many years, creating waves upon waves of FNAF action figures, plushies, and all other kinds of toys. Every single, and they kept going and going and going. But the thing was that they began in their later years to just make up stuff. They just make up things, There was the black light, there was the circus, there were the neon colors, they just kept making it up more and more things, while avoiding the stuff that people really wanted. People wanted the wizards, but they never gave them the wizards. They just made up more random things as a theme after. And they're often not very good quality. The FNAF 4 wave wasn't a very good quality, and even from the beginning, nobody liked the Chica plushie from the first wave. And beginning in the 2020s, the Funko began a bad habit of leaking things before they were meant to be released. And this led to us finding out information about things before they were supposed to be known about it, because Funko kept leaking them for their merchandise. Because, of course, whatever new big FNAF game come out, Funko will make the next final merchandise about. There's a glam box for security breach and stuff. That, however, mostly the security breach they kept leaking sensitive things. And this led to them eventually losing the master license in July of 2024. And it was given over to Jazzwares. Jazzwares is currently the holder of the FNAF license, the master license. Funko can no longer make the plushies or the action figures, but it can still make the Funko Pops and certain other pieces of FNAF merchandise. But those main strongholds they can no longer make. That's at the Jazzwares now. Now, Jazzwares released their first plushies in October of 2025, last year, and they are very high quality. They're much more game accurate. They're close to the Sanchi ones, far more game accurate than the Funko ones, and they also even released action figures. The action figures are much higher quality, and we finally got the wizards. We haven't gotten the wizards in merchandise ever, really. There's been basically never any wizards merchandise, but finally, Jazzwares gave us FNAF wizard animatronic action figures as well. And like I said, they're pretty high quality, and as well, they come with like bits and pieces of parts to make like to make sets. That's part of their line. There's a FNAF 1 office, there's FNAF 2 office, there's a sort of storage back room, and they're all pretty high quality, much higher quality than the original Funko ones. And they're currently still selling them. A lot of FNAF merchandise could also be hard to come across as it was sold for very long and discontinued, like the McFarlane ones. McFarlane re-released their old classic sets in 2019, but they didn't discount them. They kept them at the exact same price they had been released at, which disappointed many people. And McFarlane chose not to renew their license with FNAF, ending the construction sets after making about 3 or so waves, making it all the way up until Pizzeria Simulator, covering 2, 3, 4 certain locations and Pizzeria Simulator, but then stopping right after them. But then stopping mostly, except for a few occasions with VR. They did some sets for the VR, but not much really. So they decided not to renew it and can't get any of it. But even by the time they decided not to renew their license, they weren't even selling those classic ones anymore, really. But that's all I gotta say for today's episode. The future's looking pretty bright for FNAF merchandise with Jazzwares in control of it now, because they're doing some pretty high quality merchandise. So, I'll see y'all around. Bye. Have a nice time.